want to go to school and you could learn. Okay? And we're going to work very hard to assure that this is really a bully-free school. And one of the reasons why we wanted to do the program that we did on Friday was to really increase everybody's awareness. This is the second part, and I am really looking forward to hear what our guest speaker's name is, Mr. Driscoll. He's a former federal agent, and he is an expert on digital citizenship, which would involve using the internet, some of the social networking, and many of the things that we use every day and probably don't even realize the hidden hazards, concerns, and dangers that are there. So our goal is to increase our awareness and to make ourselves as safe and as responsible, not only in school, but outside of school. And this is probably something that you could talk to your brothers and sisters about, and your parents. So I know that the adults in the building that are here are really interested in what he has to say. So computers are certainly becoming a big part in our everyday life and the different ways of communicating. So it's my sincere hope that we can give Mr. Driscoll our full attention, and I want to thank him for taking the time to be here today. A very short notice.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
How you guys doing today?
Good. I love
Like your principal said, I've done a lot with computers. And to get started out, let me tell you a little bit about myself. Besides working with the FBI on a computer crimes task force, I have been a law enforcement officer. I've been a police officer for over 23 years. Most of my career has been as a youth officer working with kids. How did I get involved with the FBI? Well, because I worked with so many kids, the FBI called my department and said, hey, we need someone that can be a kid on the internet and arrest bad guys. That was me. So for 4 years, all I did for my full-time job was go online as a 10 to 13-year-old kid and arrest bad guys for hurting kids. That was my job, and it was pretty cool. But one thing I learned was we need to educate ourselves on some of those dangers. Now, my job today is very simple. I'm not here to scare you. I'm not here to tell you never go on the internet. My goal is to kind of heighten your awareness on safety. Some of the things that we already have done, maybe we haven't been too safe. Some of the things you've heard about and are curious, I'm going to try to make sure we curb that curiosity in a safe way. I have two things. I have only two simple rules when I talk to groups this size. One, we show each other, like it says on the sign, respect. One person talks at a time. If you ask a question, you will have my undivided attention, I promise you. I ask in return when I'm talking, we stay focused. And two, you stay focused on me. I'm going to show you some things on the screen that are going to draw your attention, but I want you to stay focused on me. Does that sound fair so far?
Yeah.
And honesty. So here's our first check on honesty. How many people in here are sick and tired of hearing about internet safety? All right, I got an honest group. I love it. Now, put your hands down. Just hands, no sounds. How many people in here think they know more about the internet than their parents? Now, that is the absolute answer I was expecting. And here is why we are taking class time to talk about internet safety. Because guys, if you think you know more about the internet than your parents, you better be the internet safety expert in your house. And if you're not, that's what we're here to do today. We're here to talk about it. Now, how many people use the internet on a daily basis? How many people use the internet for homework?
Sometimes.
How many people use the internet for things like YouTube? Exactly, that should have been the homework. Now, everyone put their hands down. I got two more questions. How many people in here belong to a thing called Facebook? Guys, we're going to have a lot of questions. Remember my one rule. One person talks at a time, right? And we're going to have a lot of questions and we're going to have a lot of fun, but we can't talk over each other. Now, no sounds with this last question. How many people in here have ever lied on the internet? Now, before you think about it, every single person in here that said you belong to Facebook, you have lied. The minimum age for Facebook is 13.
I lied.
And if you have joined Facebook, you are joined a network where they say the minimum age has to be 13. You have joined a network with people triple your age. The average age of a person who uses Facebook is 38 years old. Not your generation, my generation. And you're sharing information with people you shouldn't be sharing it with. So as we go through this today, by the hands that I saw, I want you to think, have I really been thinking about safety? So to get started, my first question is, do we need to know about this? And this little video gets us going.
Once you post your image online, you can't take it back. Anyone can see it. Family, friends, anyone. Remember, think before you post.
Now, I did not watch the video. I've seen that hundreds of times. What I watched was you. And I got the exact reaction I was hoping for. Girl puts her picture up on a bulletin board, almost like a website. And every time you heard someone pull the picture off, it was a click of the mouse. And at first, everyone was giggling. Then it got silent when you saw how many people were taking that picture. And then a nervous giggle came over the whole crowd when an adult grabbed that picture. Now here's the deal. And the reason I show that video is this. The reason I show that video is this. What you do on the internet, it is not, and I will prove it to you by the end of this time we're together, it is not private. It's not just for your friends. I have more Facebook accounts than you guys ever will. I am online as a 13-year-old kid right now. So I am speaking to you not just as a law enforcement officer, not just as a parent of someone who is in your grade. I am speaking to you as a kid, because when I go online, I am your age. And things I see, that's what brings me here, so we make sure that we all stay safe. Now, technology's changing, and I absolutely love technology. But technology changes every day. Like, for example, this was technology when I was a kid. Okay? I'll even date myself a little bit and show you that this was my first computer game. Reminisce a little bit, let me tell the kids the big difference. I could not communicate with the world like your technology allows. Now, I want you guys to focus on something. I want you guys to pay attention to one thing. You guys, one of my second rule was you pay attention to me. And I even warned you. Some wild things will come up on here, but I need you to stay focused. You saw what looked like a really cool thing, and you dropped your focus. Now, when you're online, and you're doing things, and you drop your focus, I'm not going to be there to bring you back in. You might already put out too much information where a complete stranger can find out where you are. Because something looks cool, we drop our guard on safety. And that's exactly what you guys did. Up until this screen, you guys were great. And I even warned you, stay focused on me. Don't let this distract you. And it did, didn't it? Yeah. Can you stay focused on me?
No.
Now, what is the internet? And here's the problem with the internet. The internet is a bunch of networks all over the world connected. It is not one computer. If it was one computer, safety would not be a concern. We block the bad stuff and that would be it. Now, I have a little different of a definition. My definition is very simple. If we're not smart, it's a nightmare. I'm on the internet more than you guys. I do it as part of my job. Now, why I came up with this definition, it's a nightmare, is if we're not too smart, things can happen. For example, if I came in here and told a group of 6th graders that we're going to talk about bad strangers, you guys would go, oh, not again. But we're going to do it a little different way. When I was growing up, that was my bad stranger. My dad sat me down and said, there's going to be someone at the park who looks really terrible. He's going to be dirty, he's going to smell, and he's going to want to try to hurt you. Don't go with him. Well, because of the internet, there's no longer what we call a stereotypical bad guy. Because we grant everyone access to our world, we share our information with people that we don't even know. On this screen is someone in the law enforcement field, firefighter, military, education, and religious field. And the only thing they have in common is they showed up at a house to hurt kids. They were all part of an undercover sting. They showed up because they met young kids on the internet and showed up at their house to hurt them. We don't want that to happen. That's why we're talking tonight. And there's a lot of ways that we can prevent this from happening on an everyday situation. Now, where does your age group run into problems? There's 8 major areas. Emails, chat rooms, instant messaging, game rooms, peer-to-peer, and unfortunately your generation's big 3 problems. Cell phones, cyberbullying, and social networking. Let's talk about each one of them. A couple things. First, if you think you can be anonymous on email, and anonymous means nobody will know who you are. If you think you can do that because it's on the internet, please retrain how you're thinking. You cannot be anonymous. If you go on and email somebody, it has things that I call digital footprints. And if you break the law with that email, it's very simple to find out where you are and who you are. I'll give you an example. Young girl did not like the amount of homework she was getting from her teacher. So she went home and she created a fake email account that her parents were not aware of. She threatened the teacher's life, went onto the school's website, found the teacher's email, and said, I will kill you, stop giving out so much homework, but signed it a different name. And it wasn't her email. 4 weeks from the time she hit send, I showed up at her door, and I had to take her to court, and she had to tell the judge why she threatened the teacher's life because of too much homework. And her first question to me was, how'd you find me? I didn't use my email address. I used another one I created on the web. You can't be anonymous anymore. So please keep that in mind. If you're joking with people and you're making comments that could be deemed a threat, you could really get into some trouble. Question?
So you basically hacked, so you didn't see the screen?
I did not hack it. Didn't have to hack it. And it's not spyware. There's legal things as police officers we can do to find those footprints of where it came from.
Never mind.
Okay. Yes?
So how did you do it?
How did I do it? Every time you go onto the internet, there's something called an IP address assigned to your computer. An IP address, the best way to describe an IP address would be like a phone number. You can buy the best cell phone out there, but if you don't have a phone number, it doesn't do anything. With the phone number, you can connect and make phone calls. With an IP address, your computer, your mobile devices can connect to the internet. Once you do that, that IP address is logged at the company. You break the law, I go in front of a judge and say this person broke the law. Within a matter of about a week, I find out what house it came to, and then I can go one step further and find out which computer it was sent from in the house. So you cannot be anonymous, guys, so please get that out of your head.
What if somebody on the computer did it on somebody else's computer?
Then it's going to come back to that computer, and that person will say, you know what, on that date and time, my friend was over, and I don't know what they were doing on my computer. Then my next step would be go to that friend's house. Sooner or later, I'm going to find out who did it. That's a promise. Yes?
I know some people have fake Facebook.
Yep, we're going to talk about Facebook and stuff like that. Unfortunately, fake Facebook accounts are very popular. Last one, then we're going to move on.
So, what if President Donald Trump and the person moved out of the United States?
If they moved out of the United States, then that would probably be the end of where the case would go. But that doesn't happen too often, so I'm not concerned about that. Okay? All right, now, chat rooms, we're going to spend about 30 seconds on chat. I'm going to take time if you have questions, but I want to make sure we stay on track here, okay? I'm going to spend about 30 seconds on these chat rooms, and that includes the video chat rooms. That includes places where you can go and communicate with strangers. My rule is very simple. No one under the age of 18 should be communicating in chat rooms. Boom, done. If you are in chat rooms right now, I highly consider you stop that practice. Almost every bad guy that I have ever investigated or arrested has started as a result of chat rooms. It's no place for people your age to be. It's a room full of strangers trying to find out information about you. They don't want to talk about the topic of the room. They don't want to have conversations. They want to find out who you are. And if that happened on the street, if someone walked up to you and said, hey, how old are you? You would run and find an adult saying a stranger is trying to get information, because you've been trained that since this big. The problem is when we're on our computer, all we see is a screen. We forget sometimes that there's a real person on the other end on a different computer screen. So chat rooms, no place for you guys to be. Here's one we'll spend time on. Question on chat rooms? Yeah, go ahead. We're going to talk about that in 1 second. Give me 1 second. Game rooms are the next thing we're going to talk about, okay? Question on chat rooms? Nope, we're not at Facebook yet. If you have a question about a chat room, I'll take it. If it's anything about Facebook or anything, we're going to get to that.
Is it possible to get into a private chat room?
In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, there's nothing private on the internet. There are software hackers, there are software programs that will bypass all privacy securities. So nothing is private. If you want to be private, stay off the internet. It's the only way to do it. Now, here are the music downloads. If you are downloading music and you are not paying for it through what they call peer-to-peer software programs, you are committing a crime and you are stealing. The most popular one was LimeWire, but now the government has shut LimeWire down because of all the illegal activity. So if you were using LimeWire up until a couple months ago, your computer might have been monitored by the government to see what you were doing, because they were on the network to make sure nothing was going wrong. And then they shut it down. 1 second, okay? If you are using your computer to download music and you are not paying for it, it's the same as walking into a store, filling your pockets with the stuff, and running out the front door without paying. That we know is stealing. I've got something in my hand, and I leave. I've got an item, and I stole it. If you download music without paying for it, it's the same thing. It's just a digital property. Now, if you're using iTunes, you're good to go. iTunes is perfectly legal. Yeah, your parents have to set up an account, give them a credit card, and anytime you download music, that gets charged, you pay for it. If you get a gift card for iTunes and you plug in that number, good to go, have fun with it. That's where I get all my music. Now, I have more music than probably all of you guys in here combined. I have been a drummer since I've been in the 3rd grade, and music is my life. I have never gotten a song for free. It's not worth the risk. Question? BearShare is right here. Oh, I'm sorry, no, BearShare is not on there. BearShare is completely illegal if you're downloading music. BearShare, LimeWire, Kazaa, FrostWire, those are all peer-to-peers and they're illegal. Now here's the scary part. If you use one of these programs, it is very common for people to spread viruses. Now a virus attacks your computer. Besides being online, I also do what they call forensic exams for police departments. I take apart the computers and I find all the deleted evidence for police officers as part of their cases. And then I prepare a whole thing so they can go to court and make the arrest. Every case that is involved peer-to-peer, their home computer is full of viruses that their home McAfee or home Norton doesn't work on. These things are dangerous and they spread things that are very bad. So if you're using them, I highly recommend you stop and change your ways. All right, now, a couple things that we need to talk about are game rooms and where game time.
Where's
with the real crazy phones on there, I lost your attention. And if you guys didn't notice, before I hit that screen, I moved way over here because I knew what was coming. You guys lost your attention again because you saw, woo, Club Penguin. You saw something familiar and fun. Do you think I don't know that as a bad guy? I know what you like and don't like. I want your attention. This took it from me. Now here's the problem with game rooms. One, you play them way too much. There's a thing called outdoors. Check it out. It's really cool. Now, here's the deal. Remember my concerns I had with you about chat rooms? They are the same concerns about game rooms. And that includes Xbox 360. Now, everybody calm down for a second. This is always where we get a little more energy, and this is good. Now, put your hands down for a second. Let me explain something here, okay? I am not, please hear me, I am not telling you not to play on game sites. That is your choice. But none of us, when we log on to Xbox 360, none of us start a game thinking to ourselves, I'm going to see how bad I can lose. Nope. We're going to get on there and we're going to say, I'm going to destroy, I'm going to win. We're focused on the game. We are not focused on safety. So if you have your headset on and someone asks a question, where are you from? Your first thought is not safety. Your first thought is game, game, game. So you might just automatically say Winston. Now, you might not think that's any big deal. But if now I know what town you're from, there's billions of people on the internet at any given time. And now you just told me the town you were on. Maybe how many people is the population of Winston?
About 11,000.
11,000. One question. My search goes from billions to 11,000 with one simple question. I hear you're a male voice or a female voice. I take that 11,000, I chop it in half. This is probably 50-50 men and women in this town. Now I'm down to about 5,500. I let it go a little bit longer. Hey, you know what, you say you're from Winston, what grade are you in? 6th. 2 questions and I've narrowed down my search to about 50 people. This is where we drop our guard. Now, someone's going to ask me, I'll lie, I'll tell them I'm from Los Angeles. I don't lie. If I'm on Xbox 360, or if I'm in a game room like Club Penguin, you can actually be in a game room where you can type in your answers. Someone says, where are you from? I have the same answer every time. I don't share personal information. That tells me about the person I'm playing with. If they come back and say, oh, come on, why won't you tell me? They don't care about the game. They're trying to find out information about me. I exit out of the game and I move on. If they say, okay, that's cool, let's play, then I can use game rooms for what they're for, fun and enjoyment. But if someone's trying to find out information about me, they're not there to play the game. They're there to do something different, and I don't want any part of it. Now, I'm a lot older than you. That's my safety rule when I play as myself. Not part of Undercover investigations. I'm an adult on a game room, and if someone asks me personal information, that's what I say. Question?
Couldn't they hack into Xbox and find where it was first person?
If you bump into a hacker, anything's possible, but I'll be honest with you. Most of the times that when kids run into problems, it's not victim of hacking. It's victim of sharing too much information. Okay? Yes, sir? Yep.
It says a lot of the ground is meet new friends.
Yep.
That could be a reason for people to not belong.
That's a great observation. Now look at the tag, what they call a tagline for Club Penguin. Waddle around and meet new friends. You are meeting faceless strangers. They're not friends. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, Facebook and things like Club Penguin have changed our definition of what a friend is. I've had the same friend since I was in the 3rd grade. Talked to one of them on the ride down here, as a matter of fact. That's a friend. I can call him anytime I want to talk about problems or have a good time with him. People I meet or penguins I meet in Club Penguin, they're strangers. It might be under a cool format because we're playing a game, but they're still strangers. So you have to keep that in mind. It's an awesome observation of that. Yes?
I think sometimes there might get confusion between hacking and somebody else finding out information from you and figuring out your password and getting into your account. And that's that sharing. And around here, they call hacking. Like if I give my best friend my password and then she's mad at me and she gets into my Facebook account. These guys call that hacking.
Okay, thank you. That is not hacking.
It's not hacking.
If you provide your friend with your Facebook password and they go on and do nasty things, that is not hacking. That's just a poor decision on you sharing your password. Because when friends fight, we do bad things sometimes. Things we regret. But the problem is, if you do something in the cyber world, you can't take it back. Once you make a Facebook posting that's really nasty, once you go on as someone on a game site and you try to be them, that's permanent. You can't take that back. Hacking is someone that's trying to get your parents' banking records. They're trying to destroy your computer by what they call viruses or keyloggers. Different programs they put on. That's a hacker. You sharing too much information, and that's how someone finds you, that's just dropping your guard on safety, and that's what we're trying to prevent today. Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that. Last one, then we're going to move on.
Not too long ago, like in the chat, and they'll do a question like, do you go to work out? And then the answer will be like, yeah, all the time. And sometimes they're like, no.
Which program was that?
Octagonal.
Okay, I'll drop it. Now there's a way, if you answer a question there, do you have to have a drop-down screen, there's automated responses, or can you type in your answers?
It's not a drop down. You can't type in your answers. It's just like little bubbles that you like cut and
But you can't type in the answers still.
You can't
Okay.
type in anything.
Sometimes that's why I asked you that. Sometimes they change, like when they talk about Club Penguin, it used to be that way, you had the drop-down screen. Now there's certain ways you can type in your answers. I played that one before, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. That one's okay because you're using their responses, you're not sharing personal information. Okay, once you do what I call free text typing, and you can answer by your typing, that's a chat room, and it's a scary area, okay? All right, let's move on. I'm going to save time again for questions, but I want to make sure we stay on task here, okay? Thank you. Now, here's a major concern. Texting has become a way of life. But I'm also here to tell you that texting also has some very serious consequences if you don't do it properly. Everybody sees what it looks like. We've all seen people text it. Now here's the problem. When someone texts something, a lot of times they don't keep it to themselves. Now I know this firsthand. My son, he is 15. He's a senior in high school. And he just got involved in something where he texted a friend a comment. Well, that friend forwarded the comment to another friend who found that to be insulting and found it to be rude. That wasn't what my son meant to do, but because his message got given to somebody else, it got misunderstood. Now, the kids involved know what I do, and they know I protect my kid on texting all the time. Even as good as I protect them, a little misunderstanding blew up. So you have to make sure you're very careful with what you do on texting, especially when it comes to pictures. If you send your picture on a text message, it becomes a permanent part of who you are. And I'm going to give you an example. Here's what happened. Young girl, a little bit older than you. She was in 9th grade. She took a picture of herself and sent it to a friend. Well, they got into a fight. So what did the boy do? The boy took out his phone and he forwarded the picture to everybody in his address book. Now, the picture wasn't that bad, but it wasn't something she wanted everyone to see. It was something between her and him, and she trusted him. Well, in the middle of a fight, he dropped that trust and forwarded it. So what did everybody else do? Everybody else took out the picture and forwarded it to their friends. Overnight, almost the entire school got the picture. So what happened is they brought in myself, and they brought in about 20 of the kids who were involved, and I sat down with them. And I said, you have to understand, you can't keep forwarding pictures if people don't want you to do that. It can really get out of control. And they ignored me. They walked out. The next day, they printed the picture up and put it around the school. Now again, it wasn't that bad of a picture, but it wasn't something this young lady wanted everyone to see. So what happened was, about 3 weeks go by. Never hear anything about it. And then I get a phone call from the principal, and I hear in the background that young girl crying. I said, what happened? The young girl was very upset because now the picture left everyone's cell phones, and it's now on the internet. And I said, oh, let's see if we can find out where it's posted from, or what website, where they're located. And maybe I could call that person and say, can you please take this picture down? She doesn't want this to be everything about her. Well, the picture was located on a website out of Singapore. 4 weeks from the time the young lady went, click, and took the picture, that picture is now what I call a digital footprint of her past. She can never get rid of that picture. It will be on the internet forever. She was 14 at that time. That was 4 years ago. January 25th of this year. 4 years later, I got a phone call from that same principal saying the picture's back. I said, well, really, it never went away, but what happened? Well, now she was applying for college scholarships. She was applying to go to UConn or a couple other colleges. So what they do as part of their background is they Google search all their potential student names. And it came up. The first search result was this young girl's picture she took when she was 14. So I said, okay, we can maybe try to do something about it. Is it still out of Singapore? No, this time it was out of a website out of Great Britain. 4 years later. So I have a very simple rule when it comes to using mobile devices with pictures. Before you take that picture, you ask yourself, am I ready for the world to see this? If you go, it's just us having fun at a baseball game and it's a funny picture, then you know what, technology can be good. It's capturing memories. But if you go to take a picture and one of the first things you say to yourself is, man, I hope my mom never sees this, don't take the picture. Because we can lose control. There's been a lot of cases where someone takes a picture on their phone, puts their phone down, and their friends pick it up. Ooh, look at that picture. And they forward it to their phone. And then the friends get into a fight. Oh yeah? You want to be mad at me and call me those names? Watch this. Couple clicks, boom. It gets out of control. Now there's also been problems with it in school. Because things happen outside of school, then people bring their phones in. And it starts to come into the school walls. It's a bad situation. So if you're thinking about those things, please don't, because bad things can happen. For example, this one happened a couple years ago, but it's still prevalent. This young girl had the same situation that I was involved in, but in a different one. But unfortunately, she couldn't deal with the stress, and she took her own life. And we're seeing a lot of that, unfortunately. We don't want to see that happen. That's why your teachers and principals have allowed me to come in and talk to you guys about it. Because when these things get out of control and we don't do something about it, bad things can happen. Or it can lead to something that really shouldn't happen, and that's bullying. Now, if you see me get a higher energy level, and I start almost jumping around during this topic, I will explain why. I don't like bullying. It's one of those things in this life that I don't think has any place. There's no reason for it. Now, I was the victim of bullying when I was a kid. I had a bigger kid that picked on me all the time. And I can stand before you and tell you it stunk. Didn't like it for 1 second. But the difference back then to now is big. When I was bullied as a kid, the only thing I would hope for is it happened on a Thursday. Because Friday morning I'd wake up and I'd fake a stomach ache and my mom wouldn't make me go to school. So I had all day Friday at home. Back then, bully couldn't get in touch with me. I had all day Saturday and all day Sunday. 3 days with no contact with the bully. Hopefully by Monday morning he decided to leave me alone or pick on somebody else. But now with today's technology, the victim can never get away from it. Anywhere you look, you're going to see these kind of things that happen. Now bullying in and of itself is intentionally causing harm to others through verbal harassment. Now I'm going to show you how cyberbullying takes it to a whole new level. Because I bet you with the amount of experience we have in here of people using the internet, you'll agree with me. People say and do things on the internet that they would never say and do to someone's face. We've seen what bullying looks like. Well, let's hear what cyberbullying sounds like.
Okay, Lindsay, you're up.
Today I'm going to talk about Patty. Patty's best characteristics, she's stupid. Stupid and ugly. everything she does is ugly. Watch her eat. Watch her stuff her face. Look at her. Greasy hair, dirty fingernails. It makes me want to vomit. Her dad doesn't work, they have no money. That's why she wears that nasty pink sweater. Everyone hates her, even the teachers, and they're supposed to like everyone. Get a life, Patty. Thank you.
How was that fun? That's
Now, here's what, let me give you guys a little props, first off. You guys watch that video more maturely than some of the college students that I've seen watch it. And that tells me we've talked about bullying in this district. Have you guys talked about bullying with your teachers and each other? No, there's no such thing as too much. Because if you go by a couple of things that I saw over here, responsibility, respect, and restraint, we need to talk about these things. And those things are applicable. Now, here's why cyberbullying is so different like you saw in that video. We say and do things we never say in person because we're looking at a screen. We have a phone in our hand. We're not paying attention to people's emotions, or what I always ask myself, what about the victim? We know how it works here in school. Somebody gets bullied, someone might pull out their phone and start recording. The victim does the right thing, goes to a teacher, goes talk to the principal, feeling down about his or herself. Then when they get out of school and on the bus and they turn on their phone, well, here come the text messages. First text message might be from a friend really being sincere. Hey, heard what happened, are you okay? Great thing to ask a friend, but are we thinking about the victim? Because the victim might see that text message and the first reaction might be, oh man, everybody knows. And the victim's not even home yet. Then when they get home, if there was a video, which I can do, there's already Facebook comments, and now more text messages. There's no escape for the victim. And because we're so mean, nasty things happen. Now, cyberbullying is the same thing as regular bullying, but it takes that cyber world element. Now, I'm going to share with you, in my opinion, the biggest case of cyberbullying that ever happened in this country. And it happened before the term cyberbullying even existed. I'm sure you don't know about them, but let me acquaint you with, before you say anything, here's what I want you to pay attention to. This is a video. These 6 girls were high school cheerleaders. The girl being beat up in the video was a fellow high school cheerleader on the same squad. The girl being beat up talked to one of these girls' boyfriends. So here's what these 6 girls did. They said, hey, we're going to bring her over to a house, we're going to beat her up, we're going to videotape it, and we're going to put it on YouTube to embarrass her. That will make sure she never talks to our boyfriends again. These 2 guys who looked pretty tough, they guarded the door so nobody could get in to help her. Now that act alone, guys, nobody should go through that. This young girl right here is partially deaf in one ear for the rest of her life because of it. They beat her very bad, and people watched it. Not only did they watch it, they made comments. They added this video as their favorites. This girl, that's the most embarrassing moment this young lady has ever experienced. And now, it's going to live with her for the rest of her life. Because if you don't believe me, let me prove it to you. There's still several hundred copies of it floating around the internet. Now think about your most embarrassing moment. Something you never want to hear happen. 3 million people not only watch it, they make some pretty rude comments about it. Now I found one of the original postings, and this one has now been taken off. But, as you can see, 6 million people watch that young lady get beat. Now they make fun of it. If you had something that you don't want people to know about, would you want it posted on the internet? Absolutely not. And this is why with cyberbullying, when we make the comments that we make, we create the fake Facebook pages to harass people. If I ever get involved, I will press charges as much as I can. I don't care how old the person is. If a 6th grader puts together a Facebook page to try to humiliate or embarrass somebody, I will work with that police department to do everything I can to make sure the victim is protected. Now, I train police officers how to do these investigations. So over the next couple of years, almost every police officer will know how to investigate these crimes. It's that important. If you know someone that is in a situation like this, here's the most common thing that happens. Let's say someone puts together a fake Facebook page to embarrass someone. everyone goes on there and says, hey, take this page down, you're being mean, making all these comments. That is exactly the opposite of what you should be doing. Because the more comments you post, the bully sits back and goes, look at all the attention I'm getting. And is that what we want to do when someone's self-esteem or someone's not feeling good about themselves? Absolutely not. This is that time where you've got to find an adult you trust, guidance counselor, teacher, principal, police officer, and say, someone's in trouble. Because if you don't do that, bad things happen. This was a situation that happened last year up in Massachusetts where Phoebe took her own life. And it's unfortunate, and she was just a couple years older than you guys. So we have to make sure that we get involved. You get involved by talking to an adult. Now, as a parent, as a police officer, do I know that in your eyes sometimes adults aren't the coolest people in the world? Yeah, I get that. But when it comes to safety, we're the most important thing you got going. And you need to include us. So now, let's get on to the big topic. Stranger walks up to you on your street. Not even walks up to you. Let's say this. You're walking down your street. You're alone, and a truck pulls up, a car pulls up, motorcycle pulls up, I don't care what pulls up. And the guy in the car looks to you and says, hey, what's your name? Which one of these houses are yours? How old are you? And by the way, you look pretty good today. Can I take some pictures of you? Obviously, everybody here is not going to do it, right?
No.
If that happened and you told them, if that happened on your street and you told a trusted adult, guys, that's a police emergency call. Someone's trying to hurt the kids in our community. We're going to get out there and we're going to put a stop to it. But when you open up Facebook, you answer those same questions that you all just said you would never do with one person. You answer the same questions, but you answer them for the world. Now let's go through Facebook. First and foremost, you are not private. Please, please, please understand that. And one of the main reasons is you're not private is everyone thinks it's cool to have lots of friends. So you approve everybody. No matter what the social networking site is, we bring too many people in. Now, this is one of the points of this presentation where you might not like me anymore. I have a very simple rule when it comes to social networking sites. In my opinion, no one under the age of 18 should be on social networking sites. Because of what I have seen firsthand on the long-term consequences and how it hurts people. Now, social networking sites are virtual communities. Blah, blah, blah. My definition, predator or bad guy's dream come true. And how did I come up with that answer? Well, a bad guy told me that. When I arrested a guy for hurting kids, I asked him a very simple question. What about Facebook? And he got a smile on his face. And he said, Facebook is a dream come true. Kids let me into their world. I create this Facebook page and it looks cool. I ask them to be their friend and they let me in. And then I know everything about them before I even say hello. Now this is a bad guy that got arrested for hurting kids. He was teaching me a couple things. So I'm going to bring that to you guys and teach you. And one of the things he said to me that I will never forget, he said Facebook is just like putting a puzzle together. I said, what do you mean? He said every bit of information that a kid puts on their Facebook page is a piece of the puzzle of who they are. And sooner than later, I'm going to find out and complete that puzzle and know exactly who I'm talking to. So you have to be careful. So if we go by his logic on what he did, let's open up a Facebook page. Now, I told you guys, I have undercover Facebook pages. This girl is not one of my Facebook friends. She is a friend of a friend, so her security settings are a joke. She has 1,100 friends. She has 1,200 photos. And she has told me her entire life she's on the other side of this country and we have never even said hello. But because my undercover Facebook looks pretty cool, I'm sure she'd add me as a friend. But I don't even need to add her because her security settings are a joke. So I go to her info page, right there where it's blacked out. Remember that. That's her school's team at what she plays soccer for. That's going to be a very important part of her puzzle. All the rest of this stuff, form spring, Here's my phone number, here's my email address, here's my Facebook page. I know who she's going out with because she told me her boyfriend's name. I know her sibling's name because we have a little side banner saying who's my family. She gave me her cell phone number and pictures. Now I just go to her school's website. I go to her high school's website and I print up their calendar because right up here it said athletic calendar. I know what team she played on because it was one of the things on her info page. I click on that team's practice schedule. I have a detailed map to where she is. I know where this young lady is, who she is, and who she's hanging out with from 7 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon, and I have never even said hello to her. If you think your Facebook stuff is private, please rethink it. I'm going to tell you again, the average age of a Facebook user is 38. That is not an age group where you should be sharing information with. It should not happen. And if you're under the age of 13, by Facebook standards, and they don't have a lot of rules, that's their one rule, you gotta be 13. That should tell you right there, it's a place that I don't want to be. Through Facebook, cyberbullying happens. Right here in the state of Connecticut, 2 13-year-olds are facing serious charges for threatening people. They threaten their principal. I can promise you, if you threaten an official, if you threaten a principal, we will find you. It's not worth the risk. Another one, 6th grader, threatened assistant principal on Facebook thinking they were going to get away with it. You will not. Now, I used to work in Glastonbury. I was the DARE officer for Glastonbury. I met every kid in that community from 4th grade, and I followed them through high school. These kids were my DARE students. They listened just like you guys did. Sat through several of my presentations, and then one day went, what's he know? Now they're facing some serious charges for threatening and harassment of another student. It doesn't take much to drop your guard on safety. I don't want you to be paranoid when you use the internet, but I do want you to think, am I being safe? It's important, because we have to remember what WWW stands for. It's the World Wide Web. It's not just our town, it's not just our state, it's the world. And we share the world with some pretty freaky people. Now, I know what got your attention. Now, I want you to look at him for a second. That is Mr. Goldberger. Mr. Goldberger made you guys jump in your chairs, made it to the FBI's top 10 list for hurting kids on the internet. He got into your world. The same guy that made you guys jump, kids allowed him into their world. He met someone in the chat room right here in Connecticut. He was 18, she was 15. They met in real life and he murdered her. He played at the Super Bowl halftime show a couple years ago. He's the lead guitar player for a rock band called The Who. He was arrested for a computer full of inappropriate pictures of children that he talked to on the internet or downloaded off the internet. He was protecting our country. And instead of emailing his family, he was talking to a 13-year-old girl. So when he came home for protecting us, instead of a soldier's hero welcome, he was taken into custody and arrested because he was talking to kids. The reason I showed these guys to you is this, to heighten your awareness that we share this with some weird people. Now, the guy in the center might be one of the most average-looking guys you will ever see. Hands down, without a doubt in my mind, and I got goosebumps as I'm talking about him, he is the scariest man that I have ever met in my entire life.
You've met him?
I was a 13-year-old girl on the internet. But now think about it. If I convince you I'm a 13-year-old girl on the internet, so can they. I was 13. We met in the chat room. We talked every day for 6 months until he decided that he was going to come and take me away from my family. We didn't let that happen. We took him into custody. When we arrested him, his computer was full of contacts of young girls that he had all over this country. This is just one piece of the whole puzzle. What you do online makes us who we are. If you notice, I have not referred to the internet as the cyber world. That's a term we used to use. Internet is now part of our everyday life. There is no cyber world and real world. What you do online is the same thing you should be doing offline. Now, can what you do on the internet come back to haunt you?
Yes.
I'm going to share with you a couple pictures, and I know the reaction I'm going to get. I'm going to share with you one of the most popular TV shows that are out there. Now, you're either going to love it. Oh, hold on, bear with me. You're either going to love this show or you're going to hate this show. Does not matter to me. But the point behind why I'm showing you will. American Idol. Now, if you're not sure on how American Idol works, millions and millions of people audition, and they break it down to the top 10. When you make it to the top 10, you got talent. Whether you love the show or hate the show, you got talent to make it to the top 10. And you might actually have a chance of having a music career. Every single person you see on that screen made it to the top 10. But before they auditioned for American Idol, they did something on the internet that they regretted. And people reposted what they did. Inappropriate pictures. She was voted off the next week. He did some things where he took off his shirt in a lot of places he went out. Because they deemed that inappropriate, voted off the next week. She drank too much. Made a video on her YouTube page of her being really, really intoxicated and making a fool of themselves. Voted off the next week. He got on and did a video blog on how bad the United States government was. Voted off the next week. She made some inappropriate choices 20 years before American Idol, no, I'm sorry, it was 15 years before American Idol even existed. Someone resurfaced the video and she was gone. The only person we've heard from is she was on another reality show just recently. All the rest of them, their dreams of becoming singers, gone in the blink of an eye. If you think you have aspirations to do something as an adult for a career, what you do online now may even impact it. As a police officer, what I do on the internet has a huge influence on if I get hired as a police officer or what people look at. So you've got to be careful. Now, how can we keep safe? A couple ways. One, your computer, especially at your age, should be in a common room of your house. I know you want privacy. I get that, and I respect that. But if you want privacy, stay off the internet. Once you collected the internet, you have said, I don't care about privacy because I'm going to communicate with the world. Your computer should be in a common area, so if something does happen, you should be able to look over your shoulder, look at the same room and say, hey, Mom, Dad, I didn't do this or something's going wrong. Because it can happen that fast. Limiting your buddies. If you're on Facebook, well, I'm not endorsing you guys being on Facebook. I don't think anybody in this room should be on Facebook. But I also realize that not everyone's going to go home and delete their account. In that case, know who your buddies are. Make sure, guys, give me a couple more seconds, okay? Make sure you're not communicating with strangers. Go through that entire buddy list. Where do you know these people from? A friend of a friend is a stranger. A friend of a friend is not a friend. Allowing your parents access and communicating with your parents is key. Letting them know what's going on. Not every step of the way, but letting them know things that are happening are important. We already talked about never sharing your password. Limiting your time online is crucial. Again, outdoors is a wonderful place. Check it out. If you start receiving emails, from people you don't know, curiosity might get the better of you. I'm going to go back to those 3 signs over there. That's where restraint comes in. You get an email from someone, even though the topic or the subject might look cool, and you don't know who they are, use restraint. Do not open the email. That's how viruses get spread, or how sometimes things get spread around that are just inappropriate for your age group. Use that restraint. Never open mail you don't know from someone. Never share personal information. That includes information on your parents. And never talk to strangers. The most important rule, guys, I don't care how old you are, and I say this to every parents group I talk to, every college group I talk to. If you know someone from the internet, and that's the only place you know them from, they're a stranger, and never agree to meet them. Again, I convince people all the time that I am a 13-year-old girl. I do it so I stopped counting how many guys I've arrested who have believed me that I am a 13-year-old girl. Now, if you do think something is wrong, trust your judgment. Look into it. How do you trust your judgment? When you find a trusted adult and talk to them. If you think you're in danger, you might want to call the police. But do not respond. Oh, one second. Do not respond to their comments or questions and do not do your own investigation. Because here's what I want you to remember. We have the right to be safe.
I am a teenager.
I am online.
I enjoy sharing thoughts,
Music, videos.
Ideas, information.
I will not
I will not be a victim to threats.
to stalking, to soliciting, to predators.
I will be responsible. I will be careful.
I will be honest.
I will be smarter. I will get my parents involved.
I will protect myself.
I will be safe.
I am a teenager.
And I
And I
will not.
be bullied.
That is my favorite video. All right, now, here's the deal. As we wrap up, I told you I was going to save some time at the end for questions. But I also know a couple things. We're not going to have time to answer every question. There is a book out there that was written specifically for your age group and up. And it's not one of these technical books where you read it and you learn about the computer. It's 12 fictional stories based on real life things that have happened to kids online. And it's written through the eyes of a kid. When you read this book, it'll be like you on the computer. When you read the stories, it'll give you some advice, but it'll also give you questions to figure out what happened. How do I know so much about the book? I wrote the book. Okay? Now, it's another resource for you. I will make sure your principal has the information if you want to do a little bit more of your own education. I don't care where you get the education from, guys. But if you're not sure about what you're doing online, educate yourself. Now, I would love to hear everyone, I would love to hear everyone's internet stories. We don't have time for stories, but I do have time to answer questions about anything we talked about or something that we didn't talk about. So, with that being said, let's get some questions. Excellent.
And what was the question?
Okay, again, I would love to hear everybody's stories, but I want to have time for the questions, okay? Question?
Only if you have a question.
But you know that guy that you're talking about, like Goldberger?
Goldberger, yep.
Yeah. Is he in jail or like is he still out?
Last I checked, he was in jail.
But just because he's in jail doesn't mean there isn't somebody right behind.
Remember Mr. Hopkins? The guy I told you about that I arrested from Florida? The day after he was sentenced to 30 years in jail, the day after, I started my next investigation on someone just like him. The only reason I share Hopkins with you is he was my first, and if you look at him, you can't tell he's a bad guy when you look at that picture. He looks like an average guy. Question, nice and loud for me, okay? What about him?